At the beginning of the 20th century, the Mona Lisa is not yet the star of the Louvre Museum. She will become one after an Italian worker, Vincenzo Peruggia, steals her. This sudden disappearance leads to an endless investigation that stretches over years. This case will captivate the general public and help make this painting the most famous in the world.
Vincenzo Peruggia steals the Mona Lisa from the Louvre Museum.
In the summer of 1911, a heat wave hits France. Paris is not spared from the heat wave, but is about to experience another big heat. On August 21st, 1911, at 6 a.m., the Italian glassmaker Vincenzo Peruggia, 29 years old, leaves his small room located on Rue de l'Hôpital Saint-Louis in the 10th arrondissement. Dressed in his work coat, he walks in the already warm dawn and reaches Rue de Rivoli, which runs alongside the Louvre Museum 30 minutes later. It's Monday. Today, the famous monument is closed to the public, but its doors remain open for the workers of the house. Gobier, a glazing company. The Louvre, several of whose paintings have recently fallen victim to vandalism, has decided to protect its 1,600 most important pieces. Employed at Gobier, Vincenzo spent the last few days installing protective glass on the paintings in the Salon Carré, a small room located on the first floor. Upon arriving at the Louvre, the glassmaker exchanges a few words with his colleagues. Then, he enters the museum and walks through the Grand Gallery before continuing to the Salon Carré. Inside, there is no one. Vincenzo is alone. Alone with a few paintings and his crazy plan. In this room, in the previous days, he has put several paintings by Italian masters under glass. For a patriot like him, this mission was painful. He can't resign himself to seeing his masterpieces hanging on the wall of a French museum. So it's decided he's going to take one of those paintings to bring it home. But which one? One painting catches his attention. It is small, 77 centimeters tall and 53 centimeters wide. It has the advantage of being easy to handle. It's a work by the famous Leonardo da Vinci, the portrait of Mona Lisa, also known as the Joconde, which he had time to admire for its enigmatic smile. He takes down the portrait, and without wasting a second, he sneaks into a staircase of the museum. There, out of sight, he removes the protective glass and the frame. He only keeps the wooden panel on which Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa and slips it under his blouse. Then, Vincenzo quietly exits the museum, holding the painting by the Florentine master tightly against his chest. Once at home, he hides it in the false bottom of a suitcase. A little later in the morning, a guard is making his usual rounds. He notices the empty spot where the painting used to be, but he thinks that the work has been moved by the curators, probably for restoration or photography. He doesn't think it's necessary to inform the management. I remind you, in 1911, the Mona Lisa did not have the fame it enjoys today. This 16th century portrait depicts a Florentine woman, Lisa Gherardini, who is also known as Mona Gherardini. Mona with two N's, an abbreviation of Mona, which means lady or madam. The Gioconda, as it is also called, is a diminutive of her husband's last name, Francesco del Giocondo. The painting was created in Italy, probably between 1503 and 1506. He arrives in France in 1516 on the occasion of Leonardo da Vinci's visit to Clos-Lucé at the invitation of King Francis III. Later, the king buys the painting, which, once it enters the royal collection, travels between Fontainebleau, the Louvre, the Écuyerie, and the Palace of Versailles. The Mona Lisa is presented to the public for the first time in 1798 at the Louvre, which has become a national museum. Until the early 20th century, The portrait of the Mona Lisa is a work that only interests connoisseurs, gallery owners, art critics, and artists. And indeed, the day after the theft, on Tuesday, August 22nd, Louis Béroux, a copyist painter accredited by the Louvre, goes there to make a sketch for his next painting, the Mona Lisa. He then goes to the Salon Carré, and when he arrives, he is very disappointed. In front of him, the wall is empty. He inquires. The guards reply that the painting is probably in the photography studio.
Is it going to take much longer? Asks the copyist.
He would also like to paint a portrait of the Mona Lisa. The guards respond that they will check. Hours go by. And when Louis Béroux asks the guards again, they seem a bit embarrassed. The painting is not with the photographers, but then where is it? We have to face the facts. The Mona Lisa has disappeared. At 11 a.m., the police headquarters is notified. About 60 officers arrive, sent by Prefect Louis Lépine. An order is immediately given to close the museum for a week, and it is thoroughly searched. No. We find the frame and the protective glass abandoned in a small staircase leading to the Visconti courtyard. The criminologist Alphonse Bertillon, a science enthusiast and a pioneer in judicial identification, notices something on the glass. A thumbprint, it's a crucial clue. Prefect Lépine is overjoyed and is convinced that the case will be solved within the next 24 hours. The police take the fingerprints of 257 people who work in the museum. The technique is still in its infancy, and the fingerprint found on the glass is not precise enough. Besides luck for Vincenzo Peruggia, who slips through the net. Lépine is furious. The director of the Louvre resigns, and the case starts to gain traction. The press picks it up, and the public starts hearing about this painting, especially since reward promises are being made here and there. The Friends of the Louvre Society, for example, promises 25,000 francs to anyone who finds the Mona Lisa. The magazine L'Illustration, 50,000 francs. The fame of the Mona Lisa is skyrocketing, and its empty spot starts to attract visitors from all over the world. Some don't hesitate to leave a few flowers there sometimes. In the meantime, the investigation is stalled and leads to many dead ends. We can no longer count the liars who claim responsibility for the theft, like the Italian writer Gabriele D'Annunzio. We also waste precious time on false leads, like the one that leads to the famous poet Guillaume Apollinaire. We've reached him, because after the theft, the museum took inventory of its pieces and was astonished to find that nearly 300 were missing. Among them are statuettes that a con artist named Gabriel Pierret sold to his friend Apollinaire in 1907. Pierret is no longer in France, but Apollinaire, on the other hand, is imprisoned on September 7, 1911. He no longer has the statuettes. He sold them to another artist. A certain Pablo Picasso is questioned in turn. After a quick investigation, everyone is released. But the mystery of the Mona Lisa remains unsolved. So, where could she be hiding? Well, still in the hidden compartment of a suitcase that Vincenzo Peruggia simply stashed under his bed. The thief hasn't left Paris. But on September 29th, Inspector Brunet knocks on his door. With little conviction, he started to question the workers who were present on the day of the theft again. You never know.
And that day, Mr. Peruggia, did you notice anything unusual? The Italian doesn't panic.
In front of the inspector, he tries to appear as natural as possible. He knows that right there under the bed is the object that the police have been searching for over a month. Will the painting finally be discovered? No. The policeman leaves, happy to have quickly wrapped up with this phony suspect. 2 years pass, 2 years during which the Mona Lisa remains missing while it is just 3 short kilometers from the Louvre. The museum even seems to have mourned the painting. In its place, they hung the portrait of Balthasar Castiglione, a painting by Raphael. But the case is about to take a turn. In 1913, Vincenzo leaves France for Florence, and, of course, he takes the painting with him. The Mona Lisa finally makes its return to Italy, well hidden in the double bottom of a suitcase. Shortly after, under the false name of Leonardo, he contacts the antique dealer, Alfredo Geri, in Florence. He reveals to him that he is in possession of the famous painting and that he is ready to sell it to him. This shows that Vincenzo's patriotic motivations don't explain everything. He's just a step away from lining his pockets. Before going to the checkout, Alfredo Geri wants to have the painting authenticated. Quietly, he calls upon the director of the Uffizi, the Grand Museum of Florence. And the verdict is in, it is indeed the Mona Lisa. But Alfredo Geri knows perfectly well that the painting was stolen in Paris. Since he definitely doesn't want any trouble, he turns in Perugia, who is arrested on the spot in his hotel room. End of the part. The thief is sentenced to only 7 months in prison. His nationalist explanations earn him a lot of leniency in Italy, where the Mona Lisa gets a grand farewell tour, visiting Florence, Rome, and Milan, where it is displayed to the public.
What was hidden behind her smile? The return of the great Da Vinci's opera.
Finally, on December 31st, 1913, she is back at the Louvre Museum, where she is welcomed with great fanfare. The Mona Lisa has become so famous that all security measures are taken to prevent another theft. During World War I, like much of the museum's collections, it is transferred to a secret location in Bordeaux, then to Toulouse. It returns to the Paris Museum in 1918. They then find it a prime spot in the Grand Gallery. In 2005, the painting changes location. The Mona Lisa is installed in the Hall of States on a separate wall, a special treatment to smooth out the flow of visitors who sometimes come to the Louvre, with just one idea in mind: to see the Mona Lisa. With 20,000 daily visitors, she is, in the 21st century, the most visited work of art in the world. This fame the Mona Lisa owes, of course, to her smile. Enigmatic, but also largely due to her mysterious disappearance one fine day in the summer of 1911.